Hello there, my friends. Welcome back. I hope you've all been doing well. I just finally got caught up on my rest. I had to take a day off of work, and I have gotten 7 pages written out for this video. So I hope you appreciate it, and I'm going to do my best to... Well, okay. Honestly, I'm probably going to read most of what I've written, because I don't want this video to drag on too long. Also because there's going to be a second part to this video. I really wanted to make it just 3 videos all together about my beliefs, but, you know, when it comes to beliefs, you kind of want to take it seriously. Because your beliefs dictate how you live. And if you don't know what you believe, if you don't think about it, you don't take the time to understand why you believe what you believe, and you don't question what you've been taught to believe, then you could spend your whole life doing a bunch of things you shouldn't be doing. Things that are wrong, and but because you were taught a certain way, you just believe that you're doing the right thing, or that you believe there's nothing wrong with how you're living. Because you never sat down and thought about it. You never compared it to how other people believe and how other people think. So not everyone does it, but I sat down and have written out a lot. And yes, the supernatural. That is what we are talking about today. The spiritual side of my beliefs. And I figured to go along with talking about the supernatural and spiritual, I decided to include some spirits. Right before we begin, there are a couple things I would like to share with you that need to be said. So, and it's just 2 things, and I'm just going to read it. And try and maintain as much eye contact with you as possible as well. Because I'm still new to this whole YouTube thing. I've only been doing it for a year, so take it easy on me on this one. Maybe I'll come back and redo these sometime and make these better. I've said that about my Bible series, but as long as that's going to be less chance of that happening. These, though, these videos about beliefs, that's a little, well, updates are always possible when it comes to what you believe. So, without any further ado, let us begin. 2 things I want to clarify with you before we get into my beliefs about the supernatural. Thing number 1. People, especially of the religious nature, may think that my intention behind the creation of this video is to convert or persuade people into believing what I do. But I assure you, nothing could be further from the truth. I believe everyone should do their own research, conduct their own experiments, and develop their own perspective opinions in the matters of the supernatural. And I believe absolutely no human being has, nor ever should have, the right to attempt to convert another human into their personal beliefs regarding the supernatural. I only share my beliefs first because it was asked of me, and second, that it does seem fair to include what I believe, since a lot of what I talk about on this channel is about what I used to believe. And secondly, a lot of the information I will be sharing is pieced together over the last 5 years, most of which can be found online. Of course, some of it is personal experience as well, some of which I will be sharing a bit of. And because so much of what I've learned comes from human sources, some of my information is likely flawed, and therefore is subject to and will inevitably change when new facts are learned. But I am not even going to go into that many details of where I've gotten all my information from, or links or anything like that. I'm not getting into all that, because like I've said, a lot of it's online, a lot of it's personal experience, and chunks of it have lined up with what I've learned via experience and online. Do your own damn research for once. Don't just listen to what I say, do your own damn research. But rather, I'm simply just condensing everything into a general layout due to how much there is, and that some of it is more personal and private than what I would like to share. So, sharing what I can, but some of it is just too personal, okay? Just leave it at that. You're free to ask questions, of course, and sure, absolutely, yeah, ask questions, all you want. But, I already told you I'm not going to share everything, so I may not answer your question or answer it the way you like. But I will do so as honestly as possible. And now that that's out of the way, let's get to the more interesting stuff that you came for. So to understand my current perspective of the supernatural, we need to go back and start with back when I was a Christian. Because, well, I was raised to believe in the supernatural and the spiritual. So, let's go back to that point and begin from there. Having been raised a strong conservative Christian, and having embraced that perspective for a while myself, I thought I knew almost everything there was to know about the supernatural. My dad loved stories about people who had died and come back shortly after, who had seen things from the other side. He even had a story that he liked to tell where he met someone personally while he was in the military as a chaplain. They were in a hospital and everything, and they nearly died and all that, and or they were declared dead or so, and they came back, or he went unconscious or something. But my dad got there, and the guy was like ranting and raving about demons taking him to hell and everything, and he said he cried on Jesus, and the demons left, and he woke up in the hospital. And my dad even said, don't know if this is true or not, but I wouldn't take my dad necessarily for a bold-faced liar, so we'll say he was telling the truth. He even had claw marks on his arms, or specifically his elbows and knees, where the demons had been clawing at him and dragging him down to hell, and he could feel heat, like it was getting hotter as it was going down. I don't, like I said, I don't know if this was actually true or not, if this actually happened, or if this guy was just on some shitty ass drugs or something that he shouldn't have been taking. But it was something, and it was very convincing for my dad. Who knows? Now that I think about it, it could have been a dream, and maybe I think. Oh, you know what? I believe the fellow was in a vehicle accident of some kind, um, which is how he ended up in the hospital. I believe. Yes, yes, that is right. It's been a while since I've thought about this story, actually, so you'll have to forgive me. But yes, he was in a vehicle accident, and so he could have easily been injured and been, you know, scrapes on his elbows and knees if he had been raised in a religious environment growing up, and he had paranoia about his life actions in relation to God and Jesus and hell and demons, and if he was actually scared of them. You can give yourself nightmares. It's it's possible to do that when you think about something too much. You will inevitably dream it. So, but of course, I was a Christian. I believed it hook, line, and sinker. And we saw videos that had collections of people that had talked about these supernatural experiences, these near death experiences. I believed in demons, angels, that unsaved people could be possessed on rare occasions, and that any child of God that was brave enough and had enough faith could cast demons out in the name of Jesus. In fact, I became fascinated by all of it. I thought confronting and casting out demons sounded really cool. I mean, it was kind of like literal warfare, literally fighting the most bad of the bad guys of the real world, but on a supernatural level for God. It just sounds really cool, and you could just, you know, I don't know what it seems like to other people, but to me, having faith in God didn't seem like too big of a deal. And casting them out in the name of Jesus, sure, God can do anything. Get the fuck out. Okay, not swearing, obviously, because I didn't swear back then. But that's what I believed. Because I was sheltered, I didn't have access to horror movies, so I didn't hear really any other stories besides the ones that I heard from my father and these videos of, of different people's only religious experiences. And I've actually always wanted to witness an exorcism. If they were real, I'm. This might be a small spoiler alert, but I'm not entirely certain if people can be possessed of demons or not. I'm not. Because there are medical issues that people have that make them look possessed and make them seem possessed. But, they're speaking in Latin and saying things that they nor anyone else should know except for the priest or whoever that's talking to them or whatever. Give me that show. Give me that experience. And then I want to see if that sort of thing is real. So I don't know if exorcisms are, I don't know if demon possession, bad entity possession is a thing or not. Okay, haven't seen it. I don't know anyone, like, as in, I personally don't know anyone who's ever seen it. I'm not sure if my dad has witnessed it. I'm pretty sure he hasn't, because if he had, he never talked about it. He was happy to talk about, the other story plenty. So but I didn't really have anything else. I didn't have access to horror movies. I didn't get to see, um, because of course it would, it wasn't written by Christians, and it wasn't Christians casting out the demons. It was always going to be a Catholic priest of some kind. That's probably the main reasons why, and of course it was like horrific and everything. They never actually scared me that much. Horror movies have never really given me nightmares, which I find a bit odd. But I'm getting sidetracked. Let's refocus. I left Christianity. And when I left Christianity, I wrote off everything I had ever heard about the supernatural. I had never witnessed anything truly miraculous. Everything I'd heard was secondhand, so I initially became an atheist. But my deconversion did not kill my curiosity for the supernatural. I took it slow, starting with those horror movies that were based on true stories. What, like, the exorcism of Anna Rose, movies like that. But I didn't fully accept them because as sheltered as I was growing up, I've known how inaccurate Hollywood movies could be ever since they started making Bible story movies. I've seen a lot of them with my parents, and they were always so quick. They couldn't just enjoy a movie. They had to pick out everything that was wrong with it, especially if it was a Bible movie. What was inaccurate, impressed by what was accurate. Of course, it's Hollywood. They're not going to do a lot of things very accurately. So I had to move on at some point. So I started listening to stories on YouTube. Not really a vast improvement, but ghost stories, supernatural monsters of the like, werewolves, the vampires, the boogeyman, Slender Man, all those Chupacabra, all those. I've listened to all kinds of horror haunting stories about ghosts and all that, supposedly true. And I don't accept any of those as being true either. I would love to see a real werewolf in real life. I don't know about the Skinwalker version. That sounds a little bit more horrific, and that does sound a bit scary. I definitely want a gun for that. Although in certain versions, guns don't do very well with those, but they might not even be real. I take everything with a grain of salt. You have to. If you don't see it for yourself, you probably shouldn't swallow it hook, line, and sinker. Just saying. Even if the source is completely reliable, they could have been tripping. They could have been hallucinating. But listening to horror stories and ghost stories of the kind became one of my favorite pastimes. It's something I still do, but it became one of my favorite pastimes while I was a trucker. Yes, driving semi-trucks over the road. Especially when driving at night. Great way to keep yourself awake if you're going on a long trip somewhere. Put on YouTube and listen to some creepypastas. They will keep you awake. Or dark web stories. Those will definitely disturb you. It was also while working as a trucker that I decided to study and learn about a few other belief systems. One of the drivers that I teamed up with on my first trucking company that I was with, I became pretty good friends with him during our time. And after exchanging background stories and current beliefs, he said I sounded very Buddhist-like in my beliefs. I had not studied Buddhism at this point. I still didn't believe in the supernatural. And all I knew about Buddhism was that their monks were like the eastern countryside Catholic monks. You know, real chill and probably cool to get along with for the most part, but were completely bold, dressed with bright colours, and probably knew martial arts. So being told I was a lot like these foreign monks in my uncertain opinions of the time compelled me to see what exactly Buddhism was all about. I mean, my friend told me, but I wanted some more direct sources, you know. So I did. I looked up a bunch of YouTube videos on that, got different perspectives and everything, and, you know, narrowed it all down. And it was very interesting. I was surprised by some of the things that I did have in common with Buddhism. But I'm not a Buddhist, just to clarify. You know, then I remembered my parents bemoaning my deconverted sister when they found out that she was exploring Wicca. She never actually became Wiccan herself. My parents just assume the worst, as they don't even approve of Harry Potter. So naturally, I decided, you know, after exploring Buddhism, I thought, what about Wicca? So I researched that and checked out their beliefs. And then I checked out Satanism. I was surprised by how well-meaning and logical their rules and intentions were. In a lot of ways, they were like Buddhism too. And if you're not familiar with any of the three, it's a lot about just getting along, treating others fairly, dealing with the shit in life like a mature adult, being responsible for your own actions, and live and let live. Do no harm, take no shit. That's one of my favourite ones that they have. But that's the extremely peaceful. They're not about going out and making converts. They're just about living life in a good, peaceful manner. Which, you know, that's great and all. And I could agree with a lot of the points they had about how humans ought to treat each other. And I do agree with a lot of Buddhism and Satanism and Wicca. But nothing about any of those three was really enough to compel me to make me want to join up with them or believe in the supernatural. I was still curious, though. If the supernatural was real, I wanted to witness it and understand it for what it really was. So much so that I was willing to buy a Ouija board, take it to an officially classified haunted house, and outright fuck with local spirits to try and get a reaction. Was interested in doing that. Things aren't quite to that level. Like, I wouldn't... Things have changed. A bit. A bit. Fortunately, I have never done that, and I have no intention of trying to put myself in harm's way of a fucking poltergeist on purpose. Unless it's to, like, try and save someone else from the poltergeist or something. If those exist. much less to that powerful degree. I haven't... Getting ahead of myself here and there in what I believe and what I don't. So, fortunately, I've never done anything that stupid, and I'm going to try my best to never do anything that stupid, at least on purpose. But my wish to experience the supernatural was on its way to happening. Around this time of researching beliefs, I met a lovely woman online who I ended up dating for a couple of years. And amongst many other things, she happened to be a witch. Now, while not believing in the supernatural, I was prepared to accept ghosts and poltergeists as being real, but not witchcraft. Or magic. Real magic. Magic with a K. Whatever you want to call that. Which, of course, is what all witches claim to be able to do. I suppose you could say. That's what we all think of them being able to do, right? Some form of magic. Potions, brewing things, cursing people. At the time, I thought witchcraft, magic, all that sounded a bit too unbelievable to be true. Too fantasy-like to be real. But it was a supernatural element in stories, witches, that is, witchcraft, magic, and the Christian God must have had some reason for wanting all witches executed. It's a rule in the Bible. I'll post the reference down here. So I opened myself up to the idea. And my girlfriend taught and showed me what she knew. She was not an expert or super into the belief systems. She wasn't part of a coven or anything like that. She wasn't a big-time practitioner. It was something more just on her own personal level that she did when she felt inspired to do it, I guess would be the right way. Intuitively guided, you could say. She knew some common candle spells and some general and customized rules and understandings of her own about magic and karma, and she had stories of her own regarding the supernatural. She had stories about using candle magic to request for certain things in her life to happen or to have negativity removed from her life, and there were seemingly coincidental outcomes that would work out for her in her favor, for which she did that spell. In fact, she claimed to have done a love spell to attract a lover before having met me. So, entertaining, not convincing. Because, I mean, I wasn't there. I didn't do the spells, and you know, what if it was just coincidence that she did a love spell and then we met and got along really well, at least for a while. Then she had her stories of feeling the presence of different spiritual entities that she knew, and you know, that's fine and interesting to listen to, but when you haven't had these experiences yourself, you're going to doubt. It makes perfect sense to doubt. You have to be skeptical because you've got to keep your sanity. You just can't go around believing whatever the fuck anyone tells you. But then came the stories of one of her friends. She was friends with an older lady before I knew her, and this friend passed away. She and a friend shared a similar favorite number. My girlfriend's number, we will say, was 44. And her friend's number was triple four, 444. After her friend passed, my girlfriend would randomly glance at the time, at, without, not on purpose, to clarify, and it would be 4:44. Or it would be at other points of the day, like 1:44, 6:44, 10:44. Completely, seemingly random glances every time. And in addition to this, often the friend would let my girlfriend know she was around. She was also friends with my girlfriend's mother, who was also not a witch herself, but believes somewhat in the supernatural, and did believe in their friend still being around from time to time. And the friend would sometimes, aside from causing my girlfriend to notice the time of these particular seemingly random times, she would also do other things to let my girlfriend know she was there, like in the form of unexplainable or harmless little accidents, like things falling over for no reason, or just she left her keys, or maybe not her keys, but something else, something random that she was using, and it's moved somewhere else. And they all still occur. Well, they still occurred while I was dating her. I didn't find anything unusual. I didn't see, things falling over. Could have been a breeze. Could have been air from the vent. Whatever. But my girlfriend would show me the 44 and the 444 every time she saw it. And I had to admit it was peculiar, because it could happen 3 to 4 times unrhythmically throughout the day. But it was her numbers. She was seeing them, and she showed them to me when she saw them. And I thought, all right, sure, that's peculiar. That's that you noticed that. Okay, that's still not really evidence of anything. But then I started to see my own numbers. If I believed in the Bible, I would swear on it, but I'm the number one thing I have to believe in. That I have. So, on my life, I swear to you, I am not lying when I say I started to look at the time exactly at 1:11 or 11:11. I wrote it off as a coincidence at first because it never happened to me before. Then it would happen again some days later. And it started happening a little more often. It was actually a bit scary at first. I thought I was going, well, I was worried I was going crazy. I never heard of this sort of thing before, only from my girlfriend, and she was attributing it to a friend who had passed on. I didn't have a friend who had passed on that I knew about that was talking to me or would try making me look at numbers. I had no reason to want to replicate seeing numbers. And it wasn't even her number I was seeing. When I asked her what this number meant, she told me I was spiritually waking up and that the universe was trying to talk to me. Right. The universe? Oh, okay. Taking, talking to me. Universe, everything. Talking. Would it take some extra salt on that? But I decided, what the hell, it's already happening. Let's see where the fuck this goes. According to my girlfriend, I didn't have to actually do anything except keep my ears, eyes, and mind open. I figured, well, that doesn't really sound too hard. I'm not actively doing anything. I don't have to meditate or anything. Like, I'm not being instructed to actually do something. Just keep my mind open. Yeah, okay, I can do that if it can back itself up to be true and is repetitive enough and lines up enough. Sure, my mind is open to the truth being the truth, whatever that may be. And I didn't I like I said, I never tried seeing numbers before, hadn't heard of it, had never seen it before, and I didn't keep on trying. I just I stopped panicking. I did my best to let it be and let it keep doing its thing. During this time as well, I was still curious about exploring the supernatural directly myself. So much so that, I mean, my girlfriend was saying it was real, so I figured, okay, well, and of course, she, told me there was, positives and negatives to it, and, you do have to take it somewhat seriously. You have to be careful. There are perspectives, well, not perspectives, there are parts about it all that are dangerous that you have to be careful about. So I thought, well, if it's real, I suppose that makes sense. I mean, especially since it's something I don't understand, that makes it all the more dangerous. So I figured, okay, if it's real, I should be cautious about it. If I'm going to experiment, I should be careful. So I decided to buy a Ouija board. And like I said, I did not go out of my way to do anything stupid with it. The most risky thing I've done with it is to use it by myself, actually. That is one of the few things it does not recommend in different variations of rules, but that's never been an issue for me. And I've always been careful about, well, I use my intuition about which rules to follow and, figure which ones make sense, which ones don't. And so but I've not only used it by myself, of course, I've used it with other people. I've used it with my sister, with mutual friends, and I've almost always gotten results every single time that I've used it. The only exception, surprisingly, being when I did it with my girlfriend, for which I still don't have an explanation for. Nothing scary ever happened, despite having spoken to a variety of entities. But how did I know if someone else wasn't moving the planchette or not when in a group? And how could I know that I wasn't subconsciously fooling myself when using the board alone? And to clarify, the way I did it by myself was using my intuition and letting it feel, it's hard to describe. Like, I put my hands on the planchette and, you know, put a lot of, put my complete focus on it, and then just kind of let my intuition. I could, I could, I can call it that because that is the easiest way to describe it, but it's like opening yourself up to your intuition and then letting it being guided, not by yourself, but like, it's really hard to describe because I don't want to say it's another entity putting its hands on you, but some people, I don't know how some people do it alone, but that is the way I did it. And I had discussions, I had lots of conversations in groups and by myself when I did it. And I didn't completely trust it. How could I? Well, the only way I could know if the board worked was if I received information from a ghost that I could actually look up by name and date. If they gave me a name, when they were born, and maybe a location where they lived or something, maybe I could look them up online and find them. Or the information that I would receive from whatever entity was on the other side it had to somehow benefit or turn out to be true somewhere in my day-to-day life. Like, not, like, it couldn't come from me. It had to be like, an external source of confirmation that what I was told was true, according to the board. I have yet to come across any of the first kind of information, but the second kind has started to slowly occur. There were several entities that have kept coming back to talk. Some who claimed to be guardians and guides for me. And they informed me of a number to look for, which would signal when they wanted to chat with me at my available convenience. Still maintaining my doubt that this was all just in my head, I played along. But I made up a rule because seeing the number just once in a day wasn't about to cut it for me. I had to see it at least 2 times in a day for it to count as a call signal. And the average number of times that I'd see that number was 3 to 4 times in a day when it would occur. And it would always come back if I didn't pay attention to it the first time around. Not always the next day, but when it would come back, it would be 3 to 4 times in that same day. And it wouldn't just be on the clock either. It would show up on license plates, on receipts from purchases, gas pumps, signs, billboards, barcodes on random locations. Me never, ever looking for them on purpose. In fact, I learned when you look for them on purpose, you have a much harder time finding them. Which is rather odd, I think. But it's turned out to be true, because when I try to look for them, I have a really hard time finding them. And this is coming from a guy with completely unmedicated ADD. officially speaking. I self-medicate, but this is not an official prescription. It's legal where I live. I get distracted by my own thoughts all the time. If you've been watching my channel at all previously, you may have picked up on that. I do my best to stay focused. I can hyper-focus sometimes, and I can focus really well when I do. Talking is a little bit more of a challenge for me because I'm introverted. I don't talk to a whole lot of people a lot of the time. Mostly it's social media via thumbs. And I have a lot of priorities and hobbies which make a lot of my free time unpredictable, and my job is no different. During the work shift, things are constantly changing. Machines are breaking down, someone's getting hurt, hopefully not, but it happens a lot where I work, because there's a fuck ton of metal and scrap everywhere. You never know what's going to happen at my job. It's unpredictable. And so a lot of times there, we work with numbers all day, making numbers worth of parts. And I will see my numbers there just as much as I will throughout the rest of my day, driving around town, looking at the clock randomly. I check the time randomly at work when we have to stop for some unknown reason. It's 1:11 or it's 11:11. Sometimes I'll hit both in the same day. Sometimes I'll only hit one, and then on the way home I will see a triple one or quadruple one on a license plate somewhere, or in a phone number on a truck somewhere. It happens quite a bit. So the more this happened, the more it really puzzled me and prompted my curiosity even more. Especially when I started seeing even more different numbers start to pop out at me. And they only increased in variety over time. I've been seeing numbers for a few years now, and I just started seeing 2 new ones recently. I learned that these numbers have individual meanings and could mean different things to different people. Some people who see these numbers call them angel numbers. And what my girlfriend suggested to me was actually Googling angel number blank, whatever number that I was seeing, and then I was to use my intuition while searching the image results until I found the meaning that stood out in my mind for the different numbers that I would see. It sounds a bit silly. Yes, I thought it sounded a bit silly at first too. And I didn't take it seriously all that much for a long time. Like, I would compare things, but I wouldn't fully accept it. I was like, okay, yeah, maybe. And I would try to use my intuition, but believe it or not, it was one of the things that ended up working for me. Like, it would actually work using my intuition to do that. Everyone's gifts and experiences are different like that. And, to be completely honest about these numbers, most of them, in their meanings, are very positive and encouraging, to the point where it's like, oh really, another one about, yeah, you're doing well, you're doing a great job, keep your spirits up, keep thinking positive, and everything will work out fine, and so on. And it's like, can I get something different? Well, there are different ones out there, believe it or not. They're not all the same, which I'm very thankful for. There are three, in fact, that I know of thus far that actually tie into my daily life much more directly than any of the other numbers. And I'll tell you about these three. The first one actually means that my attitude has been off. Like, say, I've been rude to someone online. I get into arguments. I'm a nerd. I get into arguments with different people, and you know, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't be rude. No one should be rude to each other. We should all try and get along. We should all not put each other down. We should try and help each other become wise and everything. Sometimes our ego gets in the way. No one's perfect like that. We all get a little bit out of control in our attitudes. And sometimes when that's happened to me and I am being stubborn and I don't want to admit it, I will see this number start to pop up, and it will make me think back to that conversation that I was having with someone and the way I was acting towards them. And, you know, if I can go back and make it right, I try to, but, you know, most of the time it's long gone, and, you know, I'd have no clue way of getting back to them or whatnot. And, you know, you just gotta take the kick in the pants and keep moving forward and try and do better next time. And it's a good reminder, one of the numbers that I am very grateful to have, probably one of the most important. But I try to keep on top of my mistakes, you know, without having to be reminded about them as best I can. But that's the first number. The second number, I'm not telling you what these numbers are because they're different for everyone. The second number predicts upcoming change and can even let you know when it's getting closer. The way this one does it for me, and this is actually a very popular one for amongst most people, it's 55 or 555. For me, the way it tends to happen is that I'll start seeing 55. Like, actually, as of right now, I'm currently seeing 55s here and there popping out, and they're starting to become a little bit more often. But then, then whatever the change is gets closer, I start seeing 555. Sometimes I will even see 555, but that's a little bit more rare. But the 55s will increase, and then it'll switch to 555, and then the 555 will eventually increase in volume, and then the change will happen, and the fives go away. Unfortunately, the number doesn't predict what the change will be. The 555, it doesn't do that. It's just a warning of what's coming. It could be good or bad. Kind of really depends on your perspective. I've seen it before when waiting on a job that I didn't know if I was going to get or not. I'd see these numbers, didn't know if it had anything to do with my job or not, but I'd see these numbers while waiting on a job, and I got it. And I've seen it shortly before my car broke down once. And that's just a couple examples. It happens on a regular basis. Well, not like clockwork, but it's something that you would have to be with me 24/7, and I could show it to you. But like I said, you would have to be with me 24/7 on my tail, so I can point everything out to you when I see it. And I see a shit ton of numbers now. Not just a handful anymore. I see quite a few. sometimes the change could even be regarding something you are expecting. And it could just, things could go according to plan, and you're like, oh, where was the change? Well, you planned the change. You were the change. You knew it. You just, so that's sometimes that sort of thing happens, and sometimes the change just could be something that you could miss entirely. It might not be super big, or you just might get so caught up with how happy the change is or how terrible and sad it is that you completely forgot you even saw the numbers because it was just that much of a shock to you, or something. But you keep seeing the numbers, you eventually start to recognize you, well, if you have that sort of gift. That is something that I have. So it's like over time I've been able to recognize when I see these numbers, I know something is coming to brace for impact. And then the third number actually predicts this one. This one's my favorite. One of my favorites. Okay. Because it actually predicts receiving income. Okay, it doesn't say how much, it doesn't say exactly when, but I see this number literally every week, the day before, and on payday. Almost like clockwork. This past week, I actually didn't see it yesterday, but I got paid today, and I saw it twice on the way home from work without looking for it. In fact, I hadn't seen it by those. It was a little bit later in the, like, I thought I would see it on the way to work. I didn't, and wasn't, and I completely forgot to even think about them on the way home, and then I saw them both on two completely different vehicles. So yes, I see numbers. It is a thing, and I've yet to hear a good scientific explanation for it. I've paid attention to the numbers that I've gotten. I've looked them up. I use my intuition, all that shit. Been doing it for quite, well, not quite some time, but at least a couple years now, and it's been super encouraging and helpful. And I'm glad it happens now. It would have been confusing before if I didn't know, if I didn't have my girlfriend to introduce me um, to the knowledge of that sort of thing. I would have been just confused if I had always seen numbers and shit, but I never had before, and it really took me a long time to get used to seeing them and to finally be okay with it. Because let me tell you, when something like that starts happening in your life, you just start seeing things like that. It's like what the shit? It's not big, but it is because it keeps happening. And then eventually it lines up with things in your life, which does make it kind of big in the moment. But, I mentioned talking to entities earlier on the Ouija board. What did they want to talk about? Well, you will have to come back to the next part of this video to hear about it. Now, in my next video, some of the things that I will be telling you will be, well, what my entities that I've met have told me. And some of it links back when I was a Christian, actually. And some of it is, well, that's probably what I'll start off with first. And then some of it is more about what is. things. And that is, some of that has lined up with things that I've researched, and so I'll be kind of combining the research and some of what I've learned from my entities into one, some of it. But like I said, pertaining to my Christianity, that's a little bit more separate. Um, so, yes, that should be quite an interesting video next week to get to create. I will not promise that I will have this done by next weekend, but I will do my best. I've got an extra day off of work for the holiday of July 4th, which is quite pleasant. I get to have a Monday off. How lovely is that? And that's not even the 4th, but I'm not complaining. And I could use some extra relaxation, providing we're not working Saturday. Otherwise, if we are, it's not that much extra relaxation, is it? If you've enjoyed this video, I hope you will leave a like. If you have any questions about me seeing numbers or anything like that, feel free to ask. Again, it's different for everyone. Not everyone sees this sort of things. I don't know what it takes to get there. I don't know if you have to be with someone else for them to show you, like I was, or if it's just something I'm able to do because I finally had someone to help me unlock that side of me. As far as I know, my girlfriend doesn't really see any other numbers. She's not a number seeing person aside from her number and her friend's number that they share. And I haven't talked to her in years anyways, so I couldn't say how things have progressed with her, but since meeting her, and well, I mean, I owe a lot to her for her introducing me to a lot of these things, but since leaving her, and since we broke up and everything, my experiences and everything really only just fucking grew, and everything I learned, and it's been wild. It's actually only been as of this past year that I finally decided to accept that there really is such a thing as the spiritual side of things. Doesn't mean I understand it. I know a little bit. I would say I can say that much with confidence that I know a little bit. But there is so much more. There is always more to learn about anything and everything. Especially the supernatural, because you can't always be sure what is true and what isn't. You have to remain skeptical with it at all times until you know for sure and you can test it out for yourself. Otherwise, take everything with a fucking grain of salt. Always. No matter who says it. Even if it's me. You have an excellent rest of your weekend. Stay safe. I will see you next week. And until then, my friends, farewell.